Good afternoon and welcome to the Central Bank of Kenya. We're here coming to you live from our headquarters in Nairobi because it's an auspicious occasion. We're glad you could join us this afternoon because we are coming to you for the launch of a book that has been long in gestation, a book that has been looked forward to with quite a lot of anticipation by a number of people, because this book, as you'll hear about it as we go through this afternoon, is a culmination of a lot of work that went on beginning with the 50th anniversary celebration of the Central Bank of Kenya back in 2016. So without further ado, I would like to take you to a video that shows you a bit of a history of the Central Bank of Kenya. That is almost literally a snapshot because we've got a long, varied and very interesting history here at the Central Bank of Kenya. That is our 50, and actually just to let you know, we actually celebrated our 55th anniversary just about a month ago. So the Central Bank of Kenya launched or established in 1966 is actually 55 years old. We are aware that you're joining us not just from here in Kenya, but also from all over the world. A lot of people joining us from Africa. So in case you want to know more about the Central Bank of Kenya, there's a lot of information and detail on our website, centralbank.go.ke. So please feel free to get in there, look at our history, look at our operations, and everything else about the Central Bank of Kenya. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya, Mrs. Sheila M'Mbijjewe.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. I'm not sure where you are, but we're delighted to have you with us today. Central Bank governors from the region, CBK governor and co-editor of the bank, of the book, CBK chair and members, I recognize you. MPC members from the Central Bank of Kenya, I also recognize you. Professor Victor Murinde, thank you very much for co-editing with our governor and being part of this process. Book authors, both from local and outside of Kenya, we recognize you. Oxford University Press, which participated in this process, thank you very much. CEOs, representatives of commercial banks and microfinance institutions, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. It's really my honor today to welcome you all to this virtual event to launch the CBK book entitled 50 Years of Central Banking in Kenya, Regional and Global Perspectives, edited by Dr. Patrick Njoroge, the Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya, and Professor Victor Murinde, who is a professor of the global finance at SOAS University of London. The book is an outcome of the CBK symposium that was held in September 2016 to mark the Central Bank of Kenya's 50th anniversary celebrations. And those of us that are central bankers know that around the world there has been many of these 50th anniversaries, and Kenya was there in 2016 with hers. The symposium provided a unique opportunity to reflect not just on the CBK milestones over the last 50 years of its existence, but also in the achievements and challenges that central banking regionally and globally over that period. It is the reason why we chose to name the symposium 50 Years of Central Banking as the theme. The symposium brought together eminent scholars, central bankers, governors, deputy governors from the African region, policymakers and experts, researchers, stakeholders in the banking sector, and other financial institutional representatives of development partners, as well as postgraduate students from our local universities. This book is a culmination of hard work and valuable contribution by local and international authors comprising CBK staff and authors from outside of Kenya. We have a chapter contributions by the Honorable Governor of the National Bank of Rwanda, John Rwangombwa. We have our Dr. Louis Kasekende, who is now the Executive Director of MEFMI, and also former Deputy Governor of the Bank of Uganda, Francesco Mongeli from the European Central Bank, Mr. Babak Abazade, I hope I pronounced that correctly, President and CEO of the Toronto Centre, Canada, and Mr. David Ferrand, former Director and Financial Sector Deepening in Kenya, among others. I'm also, of course, pleased to note that our Governor, Dr. Patrick Njoroge, who is also a co-editor of the book, alongside other authors from the Central Bank of Kenya. Sadly, we want to note that the death of Bob Collymore, who is no longer with us, and may his soul rest in peace. CBK has come a long way since its establishment in 1966. Globally and domestically, a lot has changed. Entrusting the responsibilities of monetary policy formulation to a monetary policy committee has greatly enhanced the transparency in the process. The Kenyan banking sector is now Pan-African. Financial innovation has transformed the financial sector and enhanced financial inclusion. This event is an insightful milestone in the history of the Central Bank of Kenya. I would like to congratulate the book editors, Professor Murinde and Dr. Njoroge, the authors, the publishers, Oxford University Press, and all those who have devoted time behind the scenes for a job well done. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my pleasure to invite Dr. Patrick Njoroge, Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya and co-editor of the CBK book, for his remarks. Thank you very much indeed.
Central Bank governors from the region, CBK board chair and members, CBK MPC members, Professor Victor Murinde, my co-editor for this book, the book authors, Oxford University Press, CEOs, representatives of commercial banks and microfinance institutions, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pleased to join you in this virtual meeting to officially launch the CBK at 50 book titled 50 Years of Central Banking in Kenya, Regional and Global Perspectives. The book we are launching today is an outcome of hard work that started on September 13, 2016, when the Central Bank of Kenya organized a symposium as part of its Golden Jubilee celebration. I want at the outset to specially recognize and thank again Professor Murinde for co-authoring this book with me and for his distinctive academic perspective in terms of quality and of the material that is included in the book, and indeed also eye for detail. Now, the symposium brought together great minds to discuss and reflect on the developments of various aspects of central banking over the last 50 years. Areas covered by the presentations included monetary policy, financial stability, bank supervision, financial innovation and inclusion, mobile money, evolution and future of central banking, and the role of central banks in regional integration initiatives. The discussions were rich, informative, and of high caliber. Great lessons were drawn from the discussions, and we thought it prudent to preserve and share the knowledge with future generations. Hence the idea of documenting the symposium proceedings into a commemorative book. By documenting the proceedings, we also had the opportunity to document CBK's milestones over the last 50 years. There's a saying, if you don't see the book you want on the shelf, write it. Even as we were discussing and celebrating milestones of central banking in the last 50 years at the symposium, no book documenting the journey that the Central Bank of Kenya had traveled over the years had been published. Needless to say, we embarked on a journey to document the important milestones, the epic journey traversed by the Central Bank of Kenya over the last 50 years. The book traces the historical evolution of central banking globally and within the East African region, and also delves into the future prospects and challenges of central banking. The journey of writing and publishing the book took a surprising 5 good years. 5 years may look like a long time, but publishing a book of this nature was not easy. Were it not for a dedicated team comprising of editors, authors, publishers, that's Oxford University Press, and other service providers that made this possible on June 1, 2021. Like the DG before me, I also want to pay tribute to those that are not with us at this conference, and they were with us at the conference in 2016. In particular, Bob Collymore, and indeed also Professor Ben Ondulu. We recognize their contributions in the book. We also recognize all the people who witnessed the inception of the Central Bank of Kenya in 1966, and they're still here with us today. A little slower, but still with us today. However, the things about books is they let one travel without moving their feet. By taking a copy of this book and flipping through the pages, you will travel through the milestones of the Central Bank of Kenya and relive the experiences of central banking over the years. It will also shed light on the intricacies behind great institutions. So I again want to express my profound gratitude to Professor Murinde, whom I have worked closely with in editing this book. All the authors, both internationally and local, including colleagues at the Central Bank and the publishing team at the Oxford University Press, for their tireless efforts in making this book a reality. I'm equally grateful to the endorsers of the book, but more so, I thank the upcoming readers of the book, as the story is truly finished and meaning is made not when the author adds the last period, but when the reader enters. For the university students, I encourage you to read this book, to understand the practical side of what you learn in theory, and hopefully understand how central banking has evolved over time. In the same manner, researchers, policymakers, civil society, global and local stakeholders should be able to gain rare insight into developments that have taken place over the last 50 years and the future of central banking. I have no doubt that it will be an important reference material in academic and policy institutions for many years to come. Thank you very much. And now, before we hand over, I would want to recognize various people. First, of course, our own governor of the National Bank of Rwanda, who is joining us from Rwanda, John Rwangombwa, and he'll be speaking to us in a little while. I need the list, please. Thank you. And we have several other colleagues. First, from the Bank of Tanzania, the governor of the Bank of Tanzania, Professor Florens Luoga, we are going to call him in a minute. We also have the governor of the Bank of South Sudan. We also have the governor of the Central Bank of Seychelles, Ms. Caroline Abel. And we also have the governor, we have a deputy governor from the Bank of Uganda, Mr. Michael Atingi-Ego, and also we have somebody from one of the deputy governors from the Republic Bank of Burundi. So what I'll do now is to invite the representatives of these central banks, our sister institutions, to say a few words. And I don't know which order you want this to be, but I'll call the Professor Florens Luoga, the governor of the Bank of Tanzania.
Thank you, my brother, Dr. Patrick Njoroge. And let me first appreciate or express my profound gratitude for inviting me to join this important event. I wish to congratulate you and the co-editor, Professor Victor Murinde, for this accomplishment, as well as the Central Bank of Kenya for finding it important to record the 50 years experience and share it with the rest of us. This comes at a very special time, a time when many people worldwide turn to the central banks for guidance and solutions on how to cope with the ravages brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. It is important that central banking is understood, because this is a very heavy responsibility that is entrusted to central banks. Central banks make decisions, discharge functions without the usual and known processes of political and executive approvals. That means they have to be well trusted. Some tend to think the independence of the central banks is anomalous. They tend to view the corridors of central banks as mysterious, and at times consider decisions of central banks as being divergent. Some feel that the central banks are over-regulating or are too stringent or have taken much under their mandate. Having started reading the book, I found it to be offering insights on the central bank function. Is illuminating to the citizen, the politician, the executive, and the bank CEOs. It comprehensively shares experiences in central banking in all its aspects, traversing from monetary policy making, ensuring stability of our banking systems, and all the range of areas which actually need well understanding by everyone. My brother, I recommend the book for readership to everyone, particularly in the government, parliament, the financial sector, researchers and academics, students in our universities, and everyone who is interested to know what happens in central banking. Again, I congratulate you personally, you and Professor Victor Murinde, and the Central Bank of Kenya for the initiative that you have taken and through the book for sharing with us and everyone how central banks functions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my brother, Professor Luoga, Governor, Bank of Tanzania. And it would have been good if you are here for the symposium as well. So many years ago, 5 years ago, but along with Ben Ondulu, it would have been good to have both of you here. But thank you very much for those very kind words. We will now move to Honorable Dier Tong Ngor, who is the Governor of the Bank of South Sudan, and he's joining us from Washington, D.C. And Governor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Governor Pat. I'm going to speak much just to take the opportunity to congratulate you, person, your co-author and the team, the Central Bank of Kenya, for documenting the history of the Central Bank of Kenya after 50 years. We are fairly new in this business. The Bank of South Sudan is only 10 years old, and I feel this experience and the book itself would be very beneficial to us. I think we would be people also who will benefit from this, and to see how Central Bank of and the leadership there have steered the progress in the financial sector in Kenya. So I really wanted just to congratulate you and your staff. Job well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Governor, and we wish you good luck in the work that you're doing in Washington. Next, we'd want to call upon our sister, the Governor of the Central Bank of Seychelles, Caroline Abel. Governor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Governor. First of all, I would like to acknowledge the chairman and members of the board of the Central Bank of Kenya, yourself, Governor Njoroge, the management team and staff, all distinguished guests and invitees at the event. Good afternoon. I would like to thank you, Governor, for the invitation to witness this memorable event. The coming of age of any institution is truly a momentous occasion as it symbolizes growth and maturity. I am therefore certain that the Central Bank of Kenya's Golden Jubilee attained in 2016 was celebrated with great pride. 50 years is a long time, long to have a meaningful impact on others, be it individuals or institutions. Over the course of the half-century, the central bank has grown into a well-respected and influential institution that has been the cornerstone of economic development in Kenya. It is indeed fitting that such a journey is well documented. The book being launched today speaks for itself, as the authors and numerous contributors have put their heart and soul in depicting the bank's evolution that has truly been marked by challenges, but also countless triumphs. It will surely serve as a valuable resource material for academics, students, and more importantly, for the central banking community as we seek to learn from the ways things were done in the past and obtain inspiration to cope with today's and future challenges. For despite the modernization agenda that we have all embarked on, one solid point of reference remains our institutional members. These are the foundations on which generations of Kenyans have built an institution that has withstood the test of time and is today a leader in the Eastern African region. On behalf of the Central Bank of Seychelles, I would like to extend our congratulations to you, Governor, the board, and all 50 years of central banking in Kenya. We wish you continued success in being the guardian of your country's economy for the next 50 years and more to come.
Thank you very much, Governor, and I noted the 50 years more. That is very good, and we'll continue working with you for 50 more years as we move forward. And next on my list here will be the Deputy Governor from the Bank of Uganda, Mr. Michael Atingi-Ego. Michael, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Governor Njoroge, and I really want to appreciate you for inviting Bank of Uganda to this book launch by the CBK. This is indeed an important milestone that you are making today. Indeed, 50 years of central banking in the CBK gives us a very good foundation for putting in place some operational frameworks going forward. We note that the book carries chapters by leading experts, some country central bankers and policymakers, and of course, scholars. Are you hearing me? Looks like something went wrong.
No, we can hear you perfectly. Go ahead, please. Please go ahead. We can hear you.
Can I continue?
Yes, please. Yes, please. You can continue. I'm sorry, Michael. Please proceed. We can see you, and I think we could hear you okay, at least until then.
That to learn from the CBK itself, particularly in laying a foundation for what we're going to do in the future. What this book does, it shows us how the challenges that emerged in Kenya were actually addressed by the CBK, particularly in terms of finding solutions to some pressing problems for socio-economic transformation. And indeed, the chapters on financial inclusion, the payment systems, really go a long way in terms of preparing us for the challenges that we're going to face in the future. Scanning through the book, I find that chapter 13 that talks about emerging and technical developments, regional integration initiatives, evolving global dynamics are particularly critical to the financial sector as we get knitted with technological innovation taking place today. So on our part, we do feel that there's a lot to learn from the evolution of central banking in Kenya, especially as it undertakes the amendments to the Bank of Uganda Act and also contends with constitutional amendments bill that are currently in the Parliament. We see that the book is rich in lessons from the developments of Kenya monetary and capital markets, especially the securities market. We can take lessons as we couple with the tools for managing structural liquidity and leveraging the securities market synergies, fiscal and monetary policy management. Now, let me conclude by just saying that there are lots of lessons to learn regarding macroeconomic and policy frameworks convergence across the EAC as we prepare for an event between monetary union and the ASEAN vision in the EAC Central Bank. But importantly, there are much more challenges that we are preparing. For example, integrating climate risks in operational frameworks of central banks, the whole aspect of fintechs and cybersecurity. And also, we need to see how we can harness new technologies to provide new data collection capabilities, treatment and analysis of data for transformation, the aspect of policy formulation and impact assessment. But let me end by saying that we in the Bank of Uganda are very grateful, and we take a lesson from here, and we wish all the governors of the region success in as far as navigating the future challenges of central banking is concerned, drawing the historical experiences that have been laid forward in the book. I thank you, Governor Njoroge, and your team.
Thank you very much, Michael, and thank you for those kind words from just across the border, and thank you again. Now, we are expecting to hear from the governor of the Central Bank of Lesotho, but she has been called to something that she has to deal with urgently. She'll possibly join us as soon as she can. And also, we were expecting to hear from one of the deputy governors of the bank, of the Central Bank of the Republic of Burundi. But I think our connections don't seem to be working. But I wanted to recognize them because, after all, we are one community. But before we take it to the next level, I think we should also hear briefly from Dr. Louis Kasekende, who is the Director General of MEFMI. And 5 years ago, he was the Deputy Governor in the Bank of Uganda. And he joined us at that time for the celebration, and also had been close to us in the context of our journey. So, Louis, you have the floor, and welcome.
Thanks a lot, Patrick. Before I start, there is a lot of echo in the system. I don't know who can address it. But let me continue, let me go forward. I wish to join others in congratulating Patrick and Murinde for putting together this volume, having a record of the history of Central Bank of Kenya. At 50, I think that's a very appropriate time to record history. In most cases, one is an adult preparing for retirement, but we don't expect CBK to retire. But I'm saying you have, you've faced many situations, you've gained a lot of experience, and in my on balance, the CBK has done very well, and thanks a lot for documenting. I was invited to be forward-looking. I contributed a chapter. My chapter was on the monetary unit. So my chapter was forward-looking. I did point out a number of challenges that need to be addressed. And I think for a central bank that is now mature, you will be able to join your other colleagues within the East African region to address those challenges. in my assessment, in my view, we should never rush into a monetary. We need to prepare ourselves for the monetary union because countries are going to give up a lot to get to the monetary union. We better do it very right. So the message I gave 5 years ago is the similar message I'll give now, that we face asymmetric shocks and we need to address all those challenges as we move into a common monetary area. So I recommend this book, all the policymakers, I recommend it to all the researchers, I recommend it to all the economists within the East African region and beyond. I thank you a lot, Patrick, and thanks a lot for inviting me to make some remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kasekende. For everybody to know, actually, we have been working also with Luis in improving our monetary framework. And if you look at the white paper that we wrote, it will be clear that he contributed quite a lot to our understanding. So, Kasekende, you are a friend, and we are obviously indebted to you. Now, before calling on the others, I want to call on my co-author, Victor Murinde, and he is somebody who, in a sense, is well known in our region. I don't know, Victor, but you are definitely, your name it's recognizable, let's just be honest, by everybody, not just those of us that are in the central bank, but I think even people in the academia, etc. Now, you are the AXA Professor of Global Finance and founding director of the Research Center for Global Finance at the SOAS University of London. He has contributed over 100 research papers to the financial economics literature, mainly in banking and finance, development finance, and financial markets. Now, you've been recognized for exceptional impact on your research work, shaping bank regulatory reforms in Africa, and this was recognized by the UK Research Excellency Framework. You're also the principal investigator of DFID ESRC research on inclusive finance. And you are the chair, Victor is the chair of the Econometric Society of Africa Region Standing Committee and founding director of the African Development Institute at African Development Bank. He wears many titles and heads, and he has done a lot, as I said, in the academia, quite broadly understood. Victor, I want to welcome you here, but I think you should also be welcoming me, I think. But I think for the benefit of everybody, Victor was definitely the person who kept us in check. He knew things about insisting gently but firmly with the authors and indeed with the co-author. So yes, you did use the carrot and also use the stick. I don't know if I got what grade I got as a co-author, but I think I enjoyed working with you and definitely very focused on the output, insistent that this is something for posterity. And I do remember exactly where we were when you reminded me, or you actually broached the idea that maybe this is something that we could put together in a book. And I was just thinking about the amount of work that would go into this book. Now, we've done all the work, and the book is out, and I want to thank you for it. Victor, welcome. You have the floor.
Governor Patrick Njoroge, Governor, Central Bank of Kenya, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Governor Njoroge, for those kind words and for inviting me to this important launch. And indeed, thank you for inviting me to work with you on this book. The originality of the idea actually goes back to Governor Njoroge. And I remember very well in the initial conversation, we both concurred, and we had good congruence in terms of what should be done to bring the first ever historical book that would cover the 50 years of central banking in Kenya, but if anything, to demonstrate the transitions that financial systems go through, embedded by a solid central bank. I don't know whether you can still hear me because...
Yes, we can hear you perfectly. It's a bit slow, but I think
hello?
we can hear you. We can hear you, Victor. Please go ahead.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Oh, thank you. I would just like to quickly make 5 points, one on each finger of my right hand. First of all, about the contributors, and secondly, about the contents, thirdly, about the messages and the endorsements, and fourthly, to add on the vote of thanks, and finally, about the future of the book. The contributors. I think it's fair to say that no single author would have so much original knowledge to be able to produce this book, because this book features chapters on knowledge that had never been published elsewhere, knowledge which is in turn into in-text knowledge where people are drawing from experiences, and knowledge that actually comes from practitioners who are working at the forefront of shaping central banking in Kenya as well as worldwide. That's why you find that a number of central bank governors and deputy governors feature in the book, including colleagues from the European Central Bank, like Francesco Mongeli and Isat Miguel Flores, and a number of the central bank governors that the governor and the deputy governor have acknowledged. But here also a number of researchers, especially at the sharp end, including Tavnit Suli at MIT, and a number of people like Desiree Kanga, who's now moved from academia to IMF. So, and also, of course, a number of people who are leading heads of departments in the Central Bank of Kenya. So it's the contributors are so well informed, and altogether they're able to bring this book, including, of course, the IMF deputy head, Mr. Mitsuhiro Furusawa, who also contributed a chapter. This contribution of getting so many high-profile and well-informed contributors is a rare phenomenon, and it was achieved thanks to Governor Njoroge and, of course, the team working on this. The contents are very unique because you find after the introductory chapter by Governor Njoroge and myself, then the focus is on central banking, a global perspective. Where is central banking now? And how is it moving? And what about the origins? And then you find on the base of that terrain, then part 2 features on the key aspects of central banking in Kenya and developments over the last 50 years. And one could take a number of issues, and fortunately the contributors who are here with us have covered some of the elements of those chapters, but it is illuminating how these fuse together. And so thirdly, let me mention some of the messages. There are many messages, many takeaways from this book. But let me just give 3 testers for you to get the appetite for the whole book. The first is that the evolution of central banking, not only in Kenya but elsewhere, is very central to the stability of the financial system. And Kenya gives that demonstration very well. The second takeaway is that the central banking mandate really goes beyond the price stability and monetary policy. And to test that, one needs to look at chapter 2 and see that the essence of the evolution of the structure of central banking in Kenya goes beyond the two main aspects of the mandate of central banking. And so the conservative school will just stick the two aspects of the mandate, but I think central bank in Africa, as demonstrated in this book, requires a little bit of more focus. And the third message, really, which is inevitably coming from the book, is that the central bank of the future rests on financial innovation and the use of technology, including fintech. And the chapter by the late Kolimo actually gives original material. You could not get that from even research fieldwork. You just get it from a person who's been involved at the forefront of this. And there are many messages. Again, read this book, you'll be able to uncover a lot of many messages. And the endorsements actually add to those messages. The first endorsement by Governor Metalanyane, the governor of Central Bank of Lesotho, adding that it's a brilliant volume. The commentary by Governor Paniko Demetriadis, who is now Professor Teresa, saying a great book. And then the commentary by Professor Robert Lenzing at the University of Groningen, saying path-breaking contributions. And then a commentary from Professor Andre Murinde from the University of Birmingham, just a superb book. There are many commentaries which have been produced on this book online. The ones on the cover, just 5 comments. Online, you have more than 12 comments. And even here, as we have at this launch, we are harvesting more positive, commentaries. So I add the vote of thanks by the Deputy Governor and the Governor. But I'd like to single out Mr. Adam Swallow and Ms. Selina Luzali at the Oxford University Press. They worked beyond the call of duty to ensure that even during lockdown, in spite of the COVID-19 pandemic, this book will be delivered. And they have just done that. Okay. And finally, about the future of the book. This book is now in hard copy for public, for libraries and governments and public entities. There is an ongoing process now. We've just finished reviewing the prints for producing a paperback version, which is priced so lowly just for the purpose of inclusion, to make sure that access, students and can access it, buy it at a bookshop for less than $10. Okay, and that paper book version will be available by the end of this year. Thanks again to Adam and this, and of course the team at the Central Bank of Kenya, including Maureen Were and Anne Kamau. And Esther Nyamongo and a group of them who've been working around the clock and who continue to look at the producing this version, which is the paperback version for everybody to see. And the other, if I can be a little bit more futuristic, the other aspects of this book will be to produce a translation in other languages. And we're already thinking around that it will not only be in English. In a couple of years from now, those who read Chinese will be able to be reading Chinese, and those who read in Japanese will be able to read in Japanese. So this book is a breakthrough in my view. I just want to recommend it to you in that view. And thank you very much once again, Governor Njoroge, for giving me this golden opportunity to work with you on this book. It's just one golden opportunity. Definitely, you can't ask for more. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Victor. I think everybody listening to you now understands what sort of a person you are and why it was such a joy working with you. Because in effect, you just push us one step at a time. You've now challenged us in terms of the pricing. Excellent. The paperback version and translations. I mean, we didn't talk about all those things 5 years ago. So we really appreciate this. And again, it's a joy.
Governor, you are muted. Governor Njoroge.
Okay,
Sorry.
I'm
Governor
muted.
Njoroge, you are muted.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Yes, I understand that everybody can hear me now. Sorry, Victor, I was just saying that it is a joy working with you, and everybody can see what sort of, how it would be, or how it was for us working with you, and why we had such a very good product. Now, before going to the launch proper, I think we need to hear some perspectives from Mr. Maheshbhai Gheewala, and he is one of those that has the distinction of having been there, being in the room where it happened, as it were. He's now retired, and after a distinguished career in the financial sector in Kenya, and he was a Treasury official responsible. He was the Treasury official responsible for establishment of the Central Bank of Kenya, and there are some. He joined the government.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. So he joined the government.
Yes, we can.
6 years ago, and again through his tenure, there are all these successes. So, Mahesh, you have the floor. Karibu sana kutoka London.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Dear dignitaries and all participants, I sincerely thank our most respected governor, Dr. Patrick Njoroge, for inviting me to participate in this virtual event to launch the book, 50 Years of Central Banking in Kenya. It is an honor to be with all today. I cannot forget the forerunner of this book, the fantastic golden anniversary celebrations which we marked in person. And here we are today, virtually launching this excellent and groundbreaking book, meticulously edited by Dr. Patrick Njoroge and Professor Victor Murinde. I strongly recommend the book to all those interested in monetary matters. As the Treasury officer responsible for the formation and legislation enacting the central bank, I have many special memories of that time and of the tremendous energy we put into the process. Regarding the name, I cannot forget the smile on late Tom Mboya's face. After reading this book, I understand why an independent central bank staffed by professionals is very positive for a country. However, our times were different times. From a Treasury perspective, and being responsible for all IMF matters, I immediately agreed with Dr. Berensky that for our currency to commence on a sound and respectable footing, it should be backed by adequate foreign exchange reserves. However, those were East African Currency Board days, and we had to get creative. After a lot of procedural hiccups, I managed to transfer the foreign exchange held by the Post Office Savings Bank to Central Bank and boosted its foreign exchange reserves and managed to issue our new currency on a sound footing. And the rest, as they say, is history. I fondly remember the day when I held in my hands the first drafts of Kenya currency notes with a picture of our president, late Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, and Swahili name Benki Kuu ya Kenya appearing before Central Bank of Kenya. After all the demanding work and problem solving that goes into creating any public institution of this magnitude, the matter came to Parliament. I was sitting on the Treasury benches when the Minister of Finance, late James Gichuru, briefed and updated the Parliament on all that the Treasury had done to set up the Central Bank of Kenya. He further informed the members that the Central Bank will control money supply and inflation, and cautioned them not to expect it to finance development expenditure. And in a thoughtful voice, he concluded that we must continue to follow prudent budgetary policies. After his speech, he looked at me and I approvingly nodded. I cannot forget the relief and pride on his face. We have done it. In the end, Dr. Berensky was very kind and asked me to join him at the Central Bank. Although I was needed at the Treasury, the Central Bank remains very close to my heart, and it is a very happy part of my life. Today, after reading professionally written articles by our central bankers on monetary instruments and policies, I feel immensely proud to see the success of this great institution, and I'm sure our first governor, Dr. Leon Berensky, would be proud too. I, with all my heart, congratulate the governor, the deputy governors, the chair, entire board of directors, all members of the Monetary Policy Committee, all staff members for fulfilling our vision of a vibrant Central Bank of Kenya, one of the most professionally managed and respected central bank, not only in Africa, but in the world. This book is a fitting tribute to you all, and I wish you all every success. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mahesh, for those very kind words. And we are delighted that we have continued to carry that vision forward. And in some sense, according to your assessment, done well in fulfilling the mandates that have been given to us and handed down to us through the generations of staff and governors that have gone before us. So thank you very much for those very kind words. Now, we've come to the point where we now need to proceed and listen to our very own governor of the National Bank of Rwanda, John Rwangombwa, and he's now going to say a few words and then launch the book officially. But something I would want to say about him, he's been the governor of the Central Bank of Rwanda since 2013. He has done, his career actually has been quite diverse. He's been, he began at the Rwanda Revenue Authority, where he grew up, came up the ranks to become the Deputy Commissioner of Customs for Operations. He moved to the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, where he served as the first Accountant General before being appointed the Permanent Secretary and then Minister of Finance. He has overseen the implementation of Rwanda's first economic development and poverty reduction strategy, which really propelled Rwanda into Rwanda's economic growth to an average of 8% and reduced poverty levels by 12% between 2006 and 2011. He was voted the Governor of the Year in 2015 for the Sub-Saharan region by Emerging Markets. Also, he has served as a member of various, and he still serves as a member of various advisory boards, including the Presidential Advisory Council and World Economic Forum on Global Agenda Council. I would also say, personally, I've worked very closely with the governor, and he and the other governors, of course, in the East African community, we are very close, and we can quite literally call the other at a moment's notice. And the only thing is also I look very much like him, I think, or at least people say. And so we do have a gentleman's agreement. If ever I need somebody to do a speech for me and I cannot do it, say in the internationally, I can always call on him and vice versa. And I think the others will never be wiser. So that's our agreement. Governor, you have the floor. Thank you for coming, and please proceed.
Yeah, thank you. Governor, for the kind introduction and the kind words. So Dr. Patrick Njoroge, Governor of Central Bank of Kenya, and our host this afternoon. Colleagues, governors of central banks present, Professor Victor Murinde, the co-editor of the book we are launching today. Invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Habari za mchana. It is an honor to virtually join you today as we witness the launch of the Central Bank of Kenya's book titled 50 Years of Central Banking in Kenya, Regional and Global Perspective, one that I'm privileged to have had an opportunity to contribute to. Let me start by congratulating you, my brother and friend, Dr. Patrick Njoroge, and the entire Central Bank of Kenya family on this great achievement. Your success in publishing a book that brings out the history of central banking in general, and in Kenya in particular, is a great contribution to the knowledge of current and future generations. More importantly, the book doesn't just focus on history, but also puts the current day operations, challenges, and the structure of central banking business into context. This book is not just an achievement for you, CBK, but a shared value for all of us as region, and we are proud of that. I encourage people to read this book that gives a background on the journey traversed by the Central Bank of Kenya over 50 years of its existence. More so, the book clearly brings out historical outlook and challenges of central banking, a field that most of us are very interested in as policymakers, bankers, private sector practitioners, civil society, researchers from think tanks and academicians, as well as students in the region and beyond. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, before I give a brief recap on a chapter I had an opportunity to contribute to, I would like to commend and appreciate the brotherhood relationship we enjoy at the East African level. This has enabled us to work together to position our region as the most vibrant regional economic community in Africa, an achievement we are all proud of. Over the years, we have jointly promoted sustainable economic growth and development in the region. For instance, towards our journey of achieving the region's monetary union, central banks in ESC have implemented far-reaching reforms to modernize and harmonize monetary policy frameworks to ensure greater monetary policy effectiveness. In 2013, a 10-year roadmap towards achieving the monetary union with a single currency by 2024 was agreed on. It is against this roadmap that central banks embarked on reforms to modernize and harmonize their operational frameworks and regulatory regimes as a prerequisite to forming an EAC central bank and monetary union. Going forward, our role and responsibility is to continue fostering appropriate policies to both set our economies on recovery path, but to also coordinate the achievement of the convergence criteria and push for a successful monetary union, a key milestone in achieving a full economic integration. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, despite the progress we have made on different fronts, today we still face considerable challenges that may hinder or delay the creation of the monetary union and a single currency. Most of these were ably highlighted by Dr. Kasekende's chapter in this book. Attainment of full economic integration in the region is the main precondition to a monetary union, yet this is still far from the desired levels. There are still many barriers to the free movement of factors of production across the region. Intra-regional trade is also still alarmingly low at low levels. The other issue is that EAC member states still face varying levels of fiscal challenges, with low tax revenue levels, high sovereign debt numbers, varying levels of public finance management disciplines that would make a monetary union unsustainable. The shallowness of financial markets that are as well not integrated is another challenge to fiscal sustainability as well as monetary policy transmission. External shocks like the current COVID-19 pandemic we are experiencing and climate-related shocks, among others, just exacerbate the already existing structural weaknesses. Though the said challenges may look insurmountable, I have confidence that with political will and concerted efforts from all of us policymakers, they can easily be overcome. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to now briefly recap a few areas of the chapter on financial inclusion, one that I contributed to in the book we are launching this afternoon. I want to start by reminding ourselves what financial inclusion means. As highlighted in the book, financial inclusion generally refers to individuals and businesses having access to useful and affordable financial products and services that meet their needs like payments, savings, credit, and insurance, delivered in a responsible, affordable, and sustainable manner. This chapter identifies the key linkages between financial inclusion and monetary policy by focusing on four main issues. For the linkages between financial inclusion and the central banking and monetary policy. So why financial inclusion matters for central banking, the state of progress on financial inclusion in Africa, what needs to be done to further support financial inclusion, and the critical role of central banks in embedding financial inclusion. Financial inclusion has been a major challenge for developing economies for many years, yet research has proved that financial inclusion is one of the key enablers for sustainable and inclusive economic growth and development. When too much financial transactions are conducted informally outside the traditional financial system, governments lack reliable statistics to inform policy on key aspects like social protection and poverty reduction. On the other hand, it becomes difficult for government to implement poverty reduction initiatives for parts of the population that have no access to formal financial services. As to why financial inclusion matters for central banking, it is through the role it plays in the effectiveness of monetary policy, one of the core functions of the central banks. Through formal financial services, central banks are able to influence the behavior of firms and individuals, effectiveness of monetary policy. It also supports the central banking mission of safeguarding financial stability through facilitating banks to assess a diversified pool of deposits and lending. Despite the importance of the financial inclusion mentioned above and great strides made recently, formal financial inclusion remains low in developing countries and in Africa in particular. For example, while account penetration is nearly universal in high-income OECD economies, with 94% of adults reporting that they have an account at a formal financial institution, it is only at 34% in sub-Saharan Africa. It is therefore a call to all policymakers in our countries to put our act together and increase these access levels. It is important to note that recent achievements in financial inclusion in Africa are mainly attributed to technological advancements that have prompted innovations in financial services, especially with regard to agents banking and mobile financial services. The COVID-19 pandemic gave a boost to the digital financial services as economic actors preferred online services and digital payment channels. It is therefore upon us to take advantage of this moment and translate this opportunity into a lasting shift to digital financial services, a progress that could have taken us decades to accomplish in the absence of this digital revolution linked to the pandemic. However, in this process, let us not forget that consumer protection is essential in promoting confidence in using digital financial services. As new customers embrace new channels of transacting, information asymmetry between consumers and financial service providers regarding financial products and services may put customers at a disadvantage. Therefore, the importance of financial education and literacy in empowering and educating consumers cannot be overemphasized. Central banks are called upon to play a leading role in educating and promoting and protecting consumers. The other point to emphasize here is the linkage between financial inclusion and financial stability. Despite the role and importance of financial inclusion in financial stability as highlighted earlier, let us not ignore the fact that if misconceived, financial inclusion may compromise financial stability. For instance, if associated with excessive credit growth, where financial institutions aggressively increase loans to the poor and other vulnerable segments of the population without due assessment of their repayment capacity, financial stability may be compromised. In addition, rapid expansion of unregulated parts of the financial sector may give rise to financial risks. It is therefore important that central banks strike the right balance between promoting financial inclusion and avoiding unhealthy or excessive credit growth. Given the big role financial inclusion plays in supporting the central bank's mission of safeguarding financial stability, it is very critical as regulators and supervisors of financial sector to put in place financial inclusion strategies that will safeguard financial stability while achieving financial inclusion for all. Dr. Patrick Njoroge, Governor of the CBK, colleagues, governors of central banks present, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude my remarks by once again commending the Central Bank of Kenya for this historic initiative, one that we greatly enjoyed contributing to. So now, by the powers entrusted to me by the Central Bank of Kenya, it is now my utmost pleasure and honor to declare this CBK book titled 50 Years of Central Banking in Kenya officially launched.
And we thank you. You probably didn't catch it in the room, so we're probably going to do it again and show you how delighted we are with the launch of the book by the Governor of the National Bank of Rwanda, John Rwangombwa. We thank you very much, Governor. We also thank you very much to all the governors who are able to join in. Dr. Reselisoe Matlanyane, who is the Governor of the Central Bank of Lesotho, is with us in spirit, as the Governor said, Governor Patrick Njoroge said. She has been called up to something that was quite urgent, but she's with us, and we thank you, the Governor of the Central Bank of Lesotho, for being with us. So as you have seen on your screens, and we will put that back up as we're coming to the end of this process, the book is actually out. It has been printed in hardcover, very beautiful book, 485 pages worth of very useful information and material. As Professor Murinde has said, it is also going to be published in paperback, which makes it more accessible to more of us. So the book is there. It's available. If you're in Nairobi, you're able to get it. You can also order it online, and we'll put that back up in a while so that you can see exactly where the book is to be received. It gives me, again, great honor to invite a colleague who is Professor Robert Mudida to come in and give the vote of thanks. Professor Mudida is the Director of the Research Department here at the Central Bank of Kenya. Prof.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed, I'm greatly honored to participate in this virtual event launching the CBK book, 50 Years of Central Banking in Kenya, Regional and Global Perspectives. But before I give the vote of thanks, allow me to join the rest in congratulating the team behind this noble book for the tremendous work that they did and for coming up with an outstanding book. I've been reading the book over the last few weeks, and I must assure you that it's a truly great book, especially for anyone who wants to understand the history of the Central Bank of Kenya, but also the role of central banking in economic development. It is indeed a great achievement for the Central Bank of Kenya, but also for all those involved and for all of us. My task this afternoon is to give the vote of thanks, keeping in mind that there are several people who may have contributed to the process and success of the book project in one way or another who might not be present with us today. First and foremost, I would like to convey our profound gratitude to the book editors, Dr. Patrick Njoroge, Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya, and to Professor Victor Murinde, AXA Professor in Global Finance at the School of Oriental and African Studies of the University of London, for their excellent work in guiding the entire process from the conceptualization of the book until the final publication. Their role as editors has been critical in ensuring the high quality and standards of the book. We would also like to thank most sincerely and appreciate our special guests and speakers who have joined us here today. Honorable John Rwangombwa, Governor of the National Bank of Rwanda, who is also an author. Professor Florens Luoga, Governor of the Bank of Tanzania. Mr. Jean Caesar, Governor of the Bank of the Republic of Burundi. Dr. Adelaide Melanye, Governor of the Central Bank of Lesotho. Representatives of other central banks in attendance. Mr. Maheshbhai, and all invited guests and stakeholders, including Mr. Mohamed Nyaoga, Chair of the CBK Board, CBK Board members, MPC members, CEOs, and representatives of financial institutions and commercial banks, among others. We are grateful to the authors, both local and international, including colleagues at the CBK, for their valuable contributions to the book. In a special way, we thank the international authors who have joined us virtually today. I will not mention them by name, lest I risk missing out someone's name. This book would probably not have been published without the role and support of the publishing and editorial team of the Oxford University Press. It is a great honor for the book to have been published by such a reputable international publisher, and would specifically like to thank Adam, Celine, and all the OUP team for their considerable contribution to this work. We remain grateful to the eminent endorsers of the book and thank Professor Murinde for his critical role in identifying and reaching out to them. Before I close, I would like to thank Ms. Sheila M'Mbijjewe, CBK Deputy Governor, and the CBK fraternity, particularly the organizing committee of the CBK book launch, that have been critical in making this day a great success. Last but not least, we are grateful to all the online participants for attending this event. I hope that you'll enjoy reading this truly outstanding book. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was Professor Robert Mudida, who is a director of the research department here at the Central Bank of Kenya. So, as Professor Mudida has said and has been very clear, what's remaining is now on you, our audience, to actually go out, get the book. It is ready and waiting for you to get it, read it, engage with it, give us feedback. We actually will be glad to hear your feedback on the book itself and also the various chapters, the subject matter discussed therein. And actually on screen now, we will put up, there you go, these are the places where the book is available right now in Nairobi. Bookstop at Yaya Center, Textbook Center on Kijabe Street, Educate Yourself Limited, that's at Baba Dogo Road, and Prestige Booksellers and Stationers at Mama Ngina Street. This is in Nairobi, but you can also get it. There is a slide coming up. You're able to get it if you want to order it directly. If you're not able to be in Nairobi, you can order it directly from Oxford University Press, and there is actually a discount from OUP. There's a 30% discount from OUP. If that slide is not available, please come to our social media pages at CBK Kenya on Twitter and Central Bank of Kenya on Facebook and also on LinkedIn. We shall put up the link there. You simply need to go to OUP, put in the code for a discount, and you're able to get a discount on the hardcover. But as Professor Murinde has said, the book will also be available in paperback in due course, he said, by the end of the year, which is less than 3 months, so you're able to get the book. We thank you all. I will not repeat Professor Mudida's thank you notes to everyone for joining us this afternoon. We are glad, we are grateful, and do have yourselves a good day.